Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Erica, and I'm the events manager on the recruitment marketing team, and I am based in Dublin. Welcome to everyone who is joining us today from around the world. We had over 800 people sign up to today's event from locations such as India, US, Mexico, Slovenia, Czech Republic, and even a few from Ireland too. So we have lots to cover in today's session, and you'll see an overview on the screen of what's to come. So I'd like to thank everyone who submitted their questions in advance, and our panel are really looking forward to answering your questions. Next slide, please. So I think it's really important to recap who we are and what we do. Well, we are a global innovative medicines company, and this essentially means that we are at the forefront of trying to understand patients' needs, researching, discovering, and trialing new medicines with the aim that we can tackle some of the world's most serious diseases. And our vision is to become the most valued and trusted medicines company in the world. So it's a really exciting place to be. And just to give you a sense of the impact we have, here are some key figures. You'll see we've reached 284 million patients with our medicines. None of this will be possible without our global community of over 78,000 people from over 140 nationalities. And key to supporting our people is our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as part of that, we're extremely proud to be able to say we have 48% female representation in management. You'll also see an infographic showing you the locations of our 6 corporate centres, which are key to enabling our overall strategy. And they are located across various time zones in 6 cities and focus on bringing together expert capabilities and talent across our functions. So you'll see we have a truly global footprint with lots of opportunities. Next slide, please. So some of you hopefully have already checked out our careers page, but I really wanted to highlight all the different areas that we hire across, and you'll see there are lots. We have over 1,300 open roles in our careers page, and this is being refreshed on an ongoing basis. So I would really encourage you to take some time to explore roles, read the job descriptions to really get a sense of the skills required and find something that's the best fit for you. And I know there's a lot on this slide, but this is all recapped on the Novartis careers page as well. Next slide, please. So just a bit about our culture. So we really are a community of dedicated and smart people united by a drive to achieve together. And our people are really at the heart of everything that we do. And then the Novartis values and behaviors really summarize how we create impact on the business and on each other. And they really provide the foundation of how we interact with each other and how we approach our work. So just to touch on each of those. So inspired, how do we inspire and encourage those around us? Curious, how do we seek out opportunities to experiment and learn and grow our careers? Unbossed, how do we remove barriers for those around us? How do we hold ourselves and others accountable in our work? And integrity, how do we make conscious decisions of what is right and wrong in everything we do? So that was just a bit about who we are and a bit about our culture. And now I'm delighted to hand over to Tanuja, who will talk to you about building your personal brand and LinkedIn profile.
Next slide, please. Thank you, Erica. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Tanuja Kamadana, and I'm a recruitment marketing lead at Novartis, based in India. Now, within the recruitment marketing team, we leverage different marketing strategies to attract the best talent into the organization. And I've been with Novartis close to 8 years, and I'm really, really excited to be here with you for the session and talk to you a little bit about personal branding. Next slide, please. So what's a personal brand and why is it important, right? Personal branding is an intentional, strategic practice in which we define and express our own value and proposition. It's what we want to be known for. Though people have carefully cultivated their public personas and reputation, online presence and social media has expanded the potential audience for such efforts. And while we think that we may be in complete control of our personal brand, that is rarely the case. Jeff Bezos of Amazon has been quoted as saying, "Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room." So it's the amalgamation of associations, beliefs, feelings, attitudes, and expectations that people have collectively hold about you. And so your goal should be to ensure that the narrative created about you is accurate, it's coherent, it's compelling, and also differentiated. Now let's move to the why. In an era where people's attention spans are getting shorter, it's even more important than ever to make an impression. And this can only be done by cultivating a structured and a good personal brand, and that can benefit you in several ways. It can enhance your visibility, particularly to those that matter to you. It can help you expand your network and attract new opportunities. Now, we're living in a competitive world where everyone is vying for similar roles, similar opportunities. So, having a unique brand can give you a personal edge and can help you stand out from the crowd. It helps build trust and credibility about who you are. When people feel like they know you, they know who you are, they know what you stand for, they're more likely to trust you. Whether we like it or not, we all have a personal brand. So the idea is to take ownership of it because much of our professional and personal success depends on persuading others to recognize our value, right? So there are multiple frameworks that are available online that can help you get started on this journey. Next slide, please. Once you've started to work on your personal brand, think about how and where you can apply it and on what channels and how do you want to apply that. An easy way to start would be with your LinkedIn profile. And in the next couple of slides, I'm going to share with you some really simple and practical tips on how you can enhance your profile. First is the cover photo. Now, this is a really nice section where you can leverage to customize and represent your brand. Choose an image that aligns with your personal or professional brand, but don't leave it blank. The next is the profile photo. Now, having a picture on your profile helps build credibility and trust. Profiles with photos receive up to 14 times more views than those without. So use a picture of just you, ideally smiling, properly aligned, cropped, are actively looking for roles, you can also indicate that you're open to work or new opportunities and have that be visible to recruiters who are actively hiring. Now, you'll find that option near the profile photo as well. Next section is the headline. Now, by default, your headline will be the most recent job title. However, you can customize this to help differentiate yourself from others and demonstrate your unique proposition and personal brand. So take the opportunity to be a little creative, draft a couple of statements that are impactful and representative of who you are and your personal or professional brand. The next section is the about section. Now, this is prime real estate, right? This section gives you a further insight into who you are and what you've done. Now, this is really where you can put in your elevator pitch. So speak to the pain points of the decision makers. If you're looking for a role, speak to a recruiter through this. If you're a business and you're looking to get more customers, speak to the pain points of the customers. Next slide, please. Now, we move on to the featured section. Now, this section is used to highlight your best posts, your articles, media, blogs, and web pages. Now, how do you do this? On your original post on LinkedIn, you can click on the three dots in the right corner and select feature on top of profile. Now, this section can help people give a really nice, quick glimpse into what is important to you and what are your interests. Next, the experience section. Now, make sure your experience is up to date with your current role title and company. Add key responsibilities or aspects of the role where you've made an impact within your organization and not a list of tasks you perform for people to read. Last but not the least, building connections. Now, ensure you're connected with relevant industry people and your co-workers, thought leaders that you're inspired by. This could be your previous work colleagues, your leaders within the organization, even your university peers. Now, follow companies, leaders, groups on LinkedIn that are of interest to you, who you can learn from, draw inspiration. You can also follow the Novartis career channels across various platforms that you can see here to learn more about who we are, what we do, and what's like to work here. Now, if you've started this journey to look for new opportunities, continue to keep your profile updated on LinkedIn even after you've landed your new role or you've started with a new company. This is a part of building your personal brand. It's a continuous process. So with that, I would like to hand over to Sean.
Thank you very much, Tanuja, and thank you all out there for joining us today. Yes, my name is Sean Keneally. I'm based in Boston, Mass. in the U.S. I've been with Novartis for about 2 years. I support recruitment for R&D, and I'm really excited about being part of this event today. So once again, thank you all for joining us. Next slide, please. So I'm going to be looking at crafting a resume. Wanted to really start, before we kind of dig into the meat of the resume, wanted to discuss some high-level considerations before you begin. So one, I wanted to just discuss kind of the difference between a resume and a CV. So a CV will typically cover your academic background and accomplishments, whereas a resume is a little bit more professionally focused, won't dig into all the meat of your academic background, and is typically shorter than a CV. So if you're applying for roles in industry, I would recommend creating a resume, as it's more geared to being job specific. So just one consideration. Another is whether to go with a functional or chronological format. Chronological resume is more common, and it will list your most recent jobs and education and work your way backwards. Functional resumes, though, can be effective if you are trying to make a career change and you really want to highlight transferable skills. But again, the chronological resume is more common. I wanted to add a note here about cover letters. Most roles don't require them any longer, but I do want to reinforce to make sure that you do check the specific requirements for any role you're applying to. Much like in the previous reference, cover letters can be helpful if you're making a career change, or if you're in a field where effective written communication is vital. It can be a great place to show off, your strength there. Resume layout is also important. Really focus on the final version of your resume being easy to read, easy to digest, easy on the eyes. Most recruiters spend 8 to 10 seconds perhaps reviewing a resume. So it'll be to your great benefit if it's easy to identify the key information. And also shoot for a good blend or a good balance between the text and the white space behind. You don't want to just have a dense block of content or text or never-ending laundry lists as part of your end format. Font choice, I would again go with something that is fairly standard, easy to read. Don't let your font creativity get in the way of your resume's message. That is, important again to make sure that it's the content that you're really trying to drive here. And lastly, whether to have one or more resumes. If you're further along in your career, maybe have had different career paths, it may be beneficial to having separate resumes highlighting each. Rather than trying to blend them into one resume. Just again, one other consideration. Next slide, please. Great. So on the slide here, we've got we're going to go through the resume kind of sections, and you kind of see a sample of some of these sections here to the right. So please, there are lots of different types of resume formats ultimately. So this is certainly just one example, one suggestion. So starting with contact information, what to include. Typically, bare bones would be name, email address, city, state, location, basically. And as Tanuja highlighted, definitely want to include your LinkedIn profile. I acknowledge that this is from a U.S. perspective and that there are that there can be differences worldwide about what is typically included here. I know in other parts of the world, pictures and birth dates and marital status is not uncommon to see in a resume, but it is, for U.S. kind of expectations, it is really, most of that or none of that personal information will be common. But again, I know that is just a U.S. Perspective. The next section is the professional summary, also sometimes called personal branding statement. Use this section to really concisely describe who you are professionally. This shouldn't be a list of your skills, but it really should be highlighting any key relevant skills, especially if they're common in your field. But it really is a place to show off your individuality, kind of piggybacking on what Tanuja said. This is a chance for you to show off how you're different from your peers. So you do want to make this relatively punctuated, so 3-4 sentences. But again, really want to highlight your individuality and your strengths. Moving into the professional employment history. This is really the meat of the resume, where you get to detail your key accomplishments and key responsibilities for your current and previous positions. General format, position title, company name, dates of employment. If you've been a professional for a number of years, you don't necessarily have to go back more than 15 years if you don't want. I think the key things here are really try to focus on getting at least 3 bullet points for each position. You want to use active verbs. You want to focus on key accomplishments. If a role you're applying to is particularly similar to one that you're already in, then you certainly may want to flesh it out with more bullets here, for sure. But at least try to, I think from a general practice, try to have at least 3 bullets per job. And it's also worth mentioning here, if you're earlier in your career or still in school, definitely take on internships, co-ops, postdocs, anywhere where you can perhaps get some industry exposure and experience, and then you would want to highlight them here for sure. Next slide, please. And then next, getting into the education section. So here you want to, again, start with you want to list any formal degrees, starting with your most recent. List the school, university, and do make sure you highlight your specific area of research. If you have any concerns about unconscious age bias, you don't have to include your date of graduation, but do make it clear that you actually obtained the degree. That is key. And for U.S. applicants, if you're coming out of your bachelor's degree, I would say I would recommend probably not including your high school. For your next section, we go into skills. This is where you really want to highlight your technical skills. We are in an ever-increasing world of technology, so this is certainly where you want to highlight any relevant skills. You also want to make sure that you're looking at soft skills here as well, potentially, and any foreign language proficiency should be included as well. And then I just have 2 what I would consider to be optional sections, and that is certifications or publications. So for certifications, if you have a broad background of professional certifications or formal education training outside of your degrees, you may want to have a separate section for that. If you don't, you can include that in your education section for sure. And then publications. If you're applying for a role in R&D and you have some publications that are relevant to the field you're going into, I would recommend including a few of them here. But if you have a long publications list, I would recommend just having a link to your publications. Next slide, please. And then just final thoughts. Again, format, layout is important. Make sure it's readable. Focus on your strengths. Keep it simple and concise. Brevity is key here. AI, there are many AI tools out there now that will help you actually drive and build your resume. There's software sections, software out there to do that. So you have that as a backup too. Make it searchable, and by that I mean, again, really make sure you include a lot of key words so that any applicant tracking system may pull up that your resume has relevant experience. And also revisit your resume before you interview. This is important. You don't want to take it for granted that you're going to remember all the data and info that you put in there. So with that, I thank you all again, and I will pass off to my colleague, Katerina.
Hi, thank you, Sean. So, hi, everyone. I'm Katerina. I have been with Novartis now for 4 years, and I'm currently in the role of Senior Talent Acquisition Business Partner located in Ljubljana, Slovenia. So first, let's start. Next slide, please. Let's start with this simple quote that I found really interesting. So now you have updated your LinkedIn profile, your CV, and you get an invitation for the interview at Novartis. What do you need to know? Let's start first with a very common question. What do we search for in a candidate? Of course, it always depends on the role we're hiring for and the specific requirements for that role. But in general, I could summarize a perfect Novartis candidate as someone who has high accountability, someone who's collaborative, someone curious, Then somebody who has high learning ability, that is very important. And guys, can we just go to the next slide, please? Sorry, I forgot. Then someone who is able to think critically. We always also appreciate a bit of proactiveness. And then last, but certainly not least important, high ethical standards. This is something that is non-negotiable for us. We are working for the patients, each and every one of us, and integrity is at the core of what we do. Then what about the interview process? Again, it's hard to give a straightforward answer to that one, as it can vary a bit based on the location and the role we are hiring for. In general, though, the first interview will be with a recruiter. This is usually a shorter call, approximately 30 minutes. Next interview is a technical interview. So this is usually a bit longer, 45 minutes to 1 hour. After this, you might have maybe 1 or 2 additional interviews. It depends on the process. However, overall, we try not to have more than 4 interview rounds. Then after the interview, you will get a feedback. Now, the general time frame for the feedback, it's a bit hard to define, could vary. Again, from 1 week to a few weeks. We try to make it as quick as possible, but it depends on the speed and the complexity of the hiring process. Then now you know kind of how the interview process looks like, but how do you ace your interview at Novartis? So next slide, please. Okay, first, the preparation. So make the effort, know the role you are applying to, research that role, and research the company. Now, at Novartis, we use behavioral-based questions at the interviews. And that means we will ask you about a situational question. So, for example, tell me about a time when you made a mistake at work, or give me an example of a time where you were faced with a difficult task at work. With these questions, we are searching for a description of a concrete situation, what happened to you. When answering those, try to remember what we call the STAR method. STAR, so S stands for situation. Describe as a concrete situation what happened. T as a task, describe what your responsibility was in that situation. A as action, explain exactly what steps you took to address it, and R as a result, what was the end result. So keep in mind, we are searching for concrete answers and not the general ones. Then practice your answers to some traditional questions, for example, experiences. Make sure to summarize those work experiences that are most aligned with the role you are applying to. Make it clear and concise, very important. Now, majority of the interviews are now online via MS Teams. Even though it's a virtual interview, prepare as if it was face-to-face. Take care of your appearance, choose professional attire that aligns with the company culture. Prior to the interview, check your equipment, internet connection, be aware of your lighting being from the front, it's the best, your camera level and sound. Now, if there are any candidates with disabilities, and a disclaimer, nobody's obliged to disclose a disability, but if one wishes to, we do have a defined process at Novartis that we follow, though this can vary again from country to country. Now, we know interviewing for a new job can be a stressful situation, but try and listen to the questions we are asking you. If you feel you need additional clarification, don't worry, ask for it. Now, we will ask you about your motivation for the role. Think about what really drove you to apply for the role. So again, specific answers. General answers such as I'm searching for new challenges, I want to learn new things, tend to be a bit overused and super generic. Keep in mind, we have limited time and try to make the best of it. Now, the compensation questions, don't try to avoid it. Try to research the market before the interview, think about your experiences and skills and the scope of the role, and try to be open in communicating your compensation expectations. Now, don't talk bad about your previous or current employer for obvious reasons. Prepare some questions for the end. Maybe something about the company culture, team structure, travel, or anything else about the role you might be interested in. And for the end, try still to be yourself. Let your personality shine through, but still remain professional, so no swearing, inappropriate jokes, etc. Good. Next slide, please. Okay, so where can you find our open roles? Now, of course, at Novartis Careers website, there you can search by job title, function you are interested in, or locations. Now, try to keep in mind there are new roles that are basically being opened every day. So I would strongly recommend and encourage you to check there on a daily level or at least regularly. You can also find all of our job postings on LinkedIn by going to Novartis LinkedIn page under the Jobs tab. There you will see you can also actually set up alerts, job alerts, which is also strongly recommended. So you will get those job alerts to your email. Now, some of our postings you can also find on the local job portals. However, this can vary a little bit from country to country. But for example, Glassdoor, etc., a lot of our job postings you can also find there. Good. So Erika, I think now back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Katerina, and everyone for your talks. Some really great stuff there. So we're going to move on to the first question. So thanks again to everyone who submitted their questions in advance. So if we go on to question 1, please. Great. So how should I craft my LinkedIn profile so that it catches everyone's interest? Well, I think, Tanuja, you're probably the best person to answer that one, please.
Yeah, I can take that. Thank you for the question. So we've gone through this in detail a little earlier, but if you're looking to get started on this journey today, right, I'd recommend starting with the first 4 aspects, like your cover photo, your profile, headline, the about section. Update your experiences, update your skill, and then you can slowly work on the other aspects, but ensure that the impact that you've made shines throughout your profile.
Great, thanks, Tanuja. We'll go on to the next one, please. Okay, so in your experience, what are the prime points on which a resume is assessed for a particular opening? So Sean, you might like to take that one.
Great. Thank you, Erika. Yes, so I think the key thing here is really understanding the job that you're applying to, really understanding the key requirements, and highlighting those throughout your I think, as I mentioned earlier, the professional summary is a great place here to, again, make sure that those key relevant experience or highlight the key skills that are required in the job, making sure that that's obvious to the recruiter and the hiring manager, and also making sure that within the professional, the employment section, that's also highlighted in your most recent jobs. Is really being able to hone in on the specific requirements for the role and making it obvious that you have that experience. But I would say the professional summary and the employment history sections.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sean. If you want to move on to the next question, please. So what is the best approach when giving examples in interviews? And I think, Katerina, you touched on this with a couple of examples, but maybe you could take this one just as a refresh.
Of course, happy to. So basically, as I mentioned, we will ask you situational questions. So again, if I may, for example, give me an example of a situation that was extremely stressful for you at the workplace. Let's say we are really searching for a concrete answers. So keep the STAR method. Again, what was the situation? What was the action? What was your kind of actions you took to address the situation? What was also the end result? So we are really searching for very specific situation. And don't worry, if you need to take a little bit of time to think about the example, that is completely okay, because we are aware that sometimes it's hard to remember those examples just like, in a second. So don't worry about it. But we really would prefer concrete answers. It's, and not the general ones that we sometimes might get. So hopefully this helps.
Great. Anybody else like to add to that?
Just add a little bit to that. I think Katerina has actually beautifully described kind of the approach we take, right? One of the other aspects that we generally tend to ask or look for in examples, in situational-based or behavioral-based questions are, what are your learnings, right? Try and think through what your learnings from that situation has been. And if you had to do things again, And if you're faced with the same situation again, would you do the same? Would you do anything different, right? That kind of takes the interviewer through your thought process, and what your learnings were and how you would apply those learnings back to a situation that you faced. So that's kind of just a little bit more to add to that.
Thank you, Tanuja. And maybe if I can also just add, Erika, and don't worry about like giving us the perfect example. Like we will not judge you if you made a mistake or anything like that, because obviously we all do that, right? We are really just, as Tanuja mentioned, we actually are looking in a way you are thinking, how you are solving problems, etc. Because basically behavioral-based interviews are the hypothesis behind it is that the past behavior can predict the future behavior. So just to give you a bit more information. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Katerina. We'll move on to the next question, please. So should I make one general resume or personalize one for each role I apply for? Is it okay to have a resume more than 1 page in length? So Sean, I think you should take that one.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Erica. Yeah, so I think to address the first part of the question, I think having a base resume is sort of a general resume to start from is great. And then, yes, I do think you should personalize it or at least amend it for roles that you are applying to. So again, you really want to be able to understand what the job is looking for in terms of experience and required skills, and make sure that those are highlighted. So there probably will be times when you'll want to make some adjustments to your resume. And then secondarily, and this is a great question, is one of length. It is totally fine to have a one-page resume. I think one thing I said during my section was that brevity is key. So that the more concise you can be, the better. But certainly, if 2-page resumes is not uncommon at all, for someone that's been in their profession for a little while. So to me, I think just really thinking about, you don't want to cut yourself short by not having enough content there. But 1 page, if you can get all of the specifics on 1 page, great. Certainly if it needs to be 2 pages, that's I think that's totally fine. But again, starting with the most recent experience first, so people have a good idea of what you've recently accomplished.
And Sean, I just might ask a question here. Is it more common now for people to attach their resumes to applications or share their LinkedIn URLs?
No, I see definitely people are sending their resumes, Erica. They might refer also to a LinkedIn side, but yeah, I'd say more sending a specific resume. Yep.
Erika, if I may add to that question, actually, I do get actually some of the LinkedIn profiles kind of submitted as the resume. And maybe what I would suggest here, it's better to submit the resume or the CV. And as Sean mentioned, actually link your LinkedIn profile, put the URL there in the CV. Because otherwise, at least to me, sometimes it seems like a bit low effort, to be honest. So maybe, and you can get maybe a little bit different information from the resume or CV than what we have on the LinkedIn profile, right? So.
Great, thank you so much. So we move on to the next question, please. So any tips that you can share that would get my LinkedIn profile in front of recruiters when I'm applying for jobs? Well, Tanuja, I think I'll give this to you.
Thank you, Erica. So first of all, right, indicate that you're open to new opportunities, and you can do that through your LinkedIn profile. And you can find this option kind of below the profile photo. And recruiters will be able to see this when they're searching for potential candidates for their open roles that they're looking for. Now, you'll have to ensure that obviously you've updated your profile with the relevant information. Make it searchable. Search for the keywords that the job descriptions have that fit your profile, and ensure that they are spread across your CV. What I mean by that is be aware of those key skills for your profile that you want to highlight and ensure that they're included in your profile. And absolutely avoid internal jargon that you would use within your organization or acronyms that are very, very, very specific to how you address your day-to-day role or aspects of your role. What that means is that make it more external facing and searchable for a recruiter, and that can get your profile in front of a recruiter that's actually looking for something similar.
Great. Thanks so much, Tanuja. Next question, please. So from your experience, is there anything I should avoid doing during an interview? Well, Katerina, you're already smiling, so I think I'll give that to you.
Thank you. I love that question, actually. Okay, so this is based solely on my experiences, what I will share now. But maybe one thing that I would really emphasize, be clear and concise. Just keep in mind, we do have limited time. This might be your only option to present you to us, to Novartis, right? So keep in mind, there's limited time. There are questions the recruiters want to ask you. So try to keep it clear and concise. For example, when you are describing your experiences, really think ahead which of the experiences would align the best maybe for with the role you are applying to. Focus on that. For example, if you are applying to the role of, I don't know, finance director, perhaps you are not that interested to know about your, I don't know, first employment at McDonald's or whatever. So just keep in mind to be clear and concise and to focus on the relevant information. Then maybe don't interrupt the interviewer when they are speaking. Just wait until they finish and then, to start speaking. Another thing, maybe sometimes, the lightning is actually, even though it might not seem important, it is. So try to be cautious about it, that it's from the front, especially, or from the sides, but not from the back. Because if the lightning is coming from the back, especially on the camera, then we will not see you. We will see mostly your shadow, which has happened a few times to me when I was interviewing candidates. And it's not a huge no-no, but it can be a little bit, it's better if the light comes from the front or the sides, let's say. So maybe just something to keep in mind also. Sean, would you add anything based on your experiences also?
Thanks, Katerina. Yeah, no, I thought that was a great answer. I agree that being concise and really thinking about the question. Something you mentioned earlier I thought was great that I wanted to reinforce here, and that is it's okay to take a few seconds to think about an answer. That don't let that silence become uncomfortable in any way. We would rather have you think through it. So just kind of rushing through an answer that doesn't really directly relate to the question, I would say is one thing that you want to avoid. So, but overall, great. I thought that was fantastic, Katerina.
Great, thanks so much. And I think it just hits home that we're all human at the end of the day, and it's a stressful situation for everybody, and we've all been through it. So I think it's always really important to remind people of that we are human and we're all just, in a pressurized situation. So if we could go on to the next question, please. So do you recommend having a picture of you in your CV, or it's better not to have one? But this is an interesting one, because I know personally I don't do it, but Sean, you might be able to take that one.
Thanks, Erica. Yeah, so thank you for this question. If the question really is what I recommend, I think I mentioned earlier from a U.S. perspective, it's not a common practice. Again, you can certainly do it, but I don't necessarily recommend it. Again, culturally, across the globe, I know that there are places where it is quite common. So it's not like there's nothing, I guess, doesn't hurt you, but there's no expectation, particularly if you're applying for roles in the U.S., that you're going to include a picture, or, as I said earlier, any other kind of personal information. But we may benefit from hearing from my colleagues in other parts of the world as well here. I don't know.
I can just quickly add to that, probably. I think most companies these days are also kind of leveraging AI to anonymize resumes when they're shared with kind of hiring managers and through the process. So definitely not having a picture on a CV isn't gonna take anything away from the profile for sure. But if you do add, again, I think it's up to each individual person, I would say.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Can we move on to the next question, please? So I am graduating this upcoming May and I'm interested in applying for entry-level positions. What opportunities do you have for new graduates? So Tanuja, I might ask you to take that one.
Sure. Well, we do have early career opportunities available at Novartis, and you can find more kind of relevant information, specific programs in countries and opportunities on our career pages at novartis.com/careers. You'll see a section for early careers where you can, and career programs that kind of take you through in different countries, what are some of the opportunities that are available, what are some of the programs that are available, what are the timelines for hiring, and so on and so forth. You can also otherwise join our early careers community, which is, again, you'll see that present on our career page to hear more about career opportunities and events in the early talent space.
Great, thanks so much, Tanuja, for that. Next question, please. So what kind of questions could I ask in an interview? So that's always a tricky one when the company is asking you. So do you have any questions for us? So Katerina, you touched on it earlier, so I might ask you to pick this one up.
Thank you, Erika. Yeah, so what I would advise, first of all, interview is also an opportunity for you to know basically as much as you want to about the role, about the company, right? So first of all, maybe think about what really interests you about the role. If there's anything perhaps that was unclear from the job posting, anything like that. But if you are not sure what to ask at the end, there's always a few kind of, let's say, go-to questions. So you can always ask about the culture, about maybe the team structure, maybe the reporting lines, if that's what you are interested in. For example, traveling, how much traveling is involved in the role. That is something candidates ask quite a lot. Or lately, let's say the hybrid working model or work from home, that kind of questions. But mostly maybe think about what you would really like to know, because it's also a great opportunity for you to kind of get more information.
Probably just add, and I mean, you can always don't avoid questions around career development. If that's something that you want to know, you're really interested in, ask about what's the career path like. It doesn't always have to be a vertical growth. You could also say what else are, opportunities that are there, kind of at Novartis, maybe not directly in the interview, but you can absolutely want to know what the career path's like, what are the kind of personal growth opportunities available within the organization.
Can I jump in here too, Erica? Yeah, and I guess just lastly, I think finding out kind of what success looks like, what really that first 6-9 months, what orientation looks like, how the company's going to hopefully help you get up to speed to be successful in the role. I think those are things to certainly also ask and to make sure you really do understand what the expectations are of the role. So the more you know, the better.
Great, thanks, Sean. And we'll go on to our last question, please. So do you need to have pharma experience to apply for a role in Novartis? Now, I can speak personally, I didn't have pharma experience before I started Novartis, but I will give this to Katerina to start.
That question, yeah. So it really depends on the role you are applying to. In general, no. For a lot of the roles, you do not need pharma experiences at all. For some of the roles, of course, you do. What I would recommend is always to really check the requirements in the job posting. There you will really get an idea whether pharma experiences are needed or not. But from my experiences, a lot of the times, no, pharma experiences are not needed. Like, for example, also myself didn't really have pharma experiences before I joined Novartis. But of course, as always, it depends on the role that you are applying to, right? So, Sean, would you like to add anything also?
Fabulous. Yeah, no, I would agree. I think certainly it does greatly depend on the role, but I do think that knowing what the expectations are when you're going through that job description of that job posting are key. But yeah, but don't write yourself off just because you don't have pharma experience. It is definitely worth doing your due diligence and really looking at the role itself and its required experience.
Great. Thank you both so much. So if we can move on to the next slide, please. So we're coming to the end of the event now, but before we finish, I just wanted to go through some of the points about maybe why you should choose a career with Novartis. And why? Because you'll get experience of working with an industry leader. It's a diverse and inclusive work culture. We have an empowering environment, flexibility at work, competitive pay and benefits, great opportunities to develop yourself in your career, and I can definitely attest to that as well. So just some ideas here of what you can get if you're successful in getting a role at Novartis. And then lastly, to finish, we'd like to play a short video, which I hope you find inspiring, and it really showcases how we thrive together at Novartis. So thank you for joining today's event.
Helping people with disease and their families takes more than innovative science. It takes a focus on the needs of people and a community committed to meeting them. It takes a network of bright and curious minds sharing ideas, insights, and perspectives. It takes a team of people like you. Smart, passionate people who are already great at what they do, but strive to be even better. People you can admire, learn from, and celebrate breakthroughs with. People who inspire each other to push the limits of what's possible, and who will empower you to create a brighter future for all. Welcome to where we thrive together. Novartis.